Michael Thompson was sitting at his dining table in Denver, Colorado, surrounded by piles of papers and overdue bills. At 52, the owner of a small construction company was facing the worst financial moment of his life. The business he had built over 20 years was on the brink of bankruptcy, and he knew that his decisions in the coming days would determine not only his future, but also that of his wife Sarah and their 2 teenage children. What Michael didn't realize was that even in that desperate moment, there was still light at the end of the tunnel. While consulting with a lawyer specializing in judicial recovery, he discovered something that would completely change his perspective. Succession planning was not just for wealthy people, but a powerful tool to protect the little patrimony that remained and guarantee his family's future. In the United States, approximately 38,000 companies declare bankruptcy annually, according to data from the Administrative Office of the U.S. Courts. Of these, about 97% are small businesses like Michael's. What few know is that even during the bankruptcy process, there are legal instruments capable of preserving part of the family patrimony and creating a solid foundation to start over. The lawyer explained 3 fundamental strategies that Michael could implement immediately. First, creating an irrevocable trust to protect the family home. In 6 months, Michael managed to preserve 60% of his personal patrimony through these strategies. His company went bankrupt, but his family was protected. Today, 3 years later, he manages a sustainable construction consultancy and says that succession planning not only saved his future, but taught him that protecting family goes far beyond simply making money. Jennifer Martinez never imagined she would wake up on a Tuesday morning in Phoenix, Arizona, discovering she was technically bankrupt. The 38-year-old accountant had always considered herself financially organized, but when she added up all her credit card debts, car financing, house mortgage, and a personal loan she had taken to help her mother, she realized she owed $127,000 against only $23,000 in liquid assets. The moment of panic came when Jennifer received a collection letter threatening to foreclose on her house. That's when she discovered the warning signs she had ignored for months. Constant use of credit cards for basic expenses, paying only minimum amounts on bills, and the growing need to take new loans to pay off old ones. These are exactly the 3 main indicators of personal bankruptcy identified by the National Foundation for Credit Counseling. Federal Reserve statistics show that 40% of Americans couldn't cover a $400 emergency without resorting to loans. Jennifer was part of this reality. Her monthly income of $4,200 was completely committed, leaving only $180 after paying all mandatory bills. Her debt ratio had exceeded 85% of her income, well above the 30% considered safe by experts. The turnaround happened when Jennifer sought free financial counseling offered by United Way. There, she learned to calculate her current liquidity ratio, discovered she was spending 23% more than she earned, and identified $890 in superfluous monthly expenses. The consultant showed that small adjustments, like canceling unnecessary subscriptions and renegotiating contracts, could free up enough resources to start a structured payment plan. 6 months later, Jennifer had reduced her debts by $31,000. Robert Chun was standing in line at the bank in Seattle, Washington, holding the final foreclosure notice for his house. The 45-year-old Chinese immigrant had lost his job as a software engineer 3 months earlier, and his savings were exhausted. With an unemployed wife and 2 small children, he knew he had only 30 days to find $8,400 or lose the house where they had lived for 8 years. Desperation led Robert to discover something that would change his life. The main causes of bankruptcy in the United States are not excessive spending or irresponsibility, but unexpected events that anyone can face. According to a Harvard Medical School study, 66% of American personal bankruptcies are related to medical expenses, job loss, or divorce. Robert fit perfectly into this statistic, representing the 78% of people who declare bankruptcy even with higher education. The numbers are even more alarming. The Federal Reserve Bank of St. Louis revealed that the median American family has only $5,300 in savings, insufficient to cover 3 months of expenses. In Robert's case, his emergency reserve covered only 7 weeks of basic expenses, demonstrating a vulnerability that affects 69% of American workers, according to Career Builder research. The solution came through a little-known government program, the Home Affordable Modification Program, HUMP. Robert discovered he could renegotiate his mortgage. The decisive factor was creating multiple income sources. Robert began teaching programming classes online, sold digital products, and offered consulting services. In 4 months, he had stabilized his financial situation with a combined income of $5,200 monthly. 2 years later, he founded an educational technology startup that now employs 12 people. His experience taught him that income diversification is not a luxury, but a necessity in an unstable economic world. Lisa Rodriguez was sitting in her car in a Miami, Florida supermarket parking lot, crying after seeing her bank account balance, $127.43. The 29-year-old single mother worked 2 jobs but still couldn't pay all her bills. The most painful moment came when she had to return a package of diapers at the checkout because she didn't have enough money to buy them. That night, Lisa made a decision that would change her life. She would truly learn about money, not just how to spend it, but how to make it grow. She discovered a shocking statistic from the National Financial Educators Council. Lack of financial education costs the average American $1,230 per year in bad decisions. For someone in her situation, this represented almost 3 months of rent. The first step was understanding where her money really went. Lisa downloaded a free financial control app and for 30 days recorded every cent spent. The result surprised her. She spent $340 monthly on small impulse purchases, $180 on avoidable bank fees, and $95 on services she didn't use. That was $615 that could have been going to an emergency reserve or to pay off debts. The real transformation began when Lisa enrolled in a free financial education course offered by the local library. There she learned fundamental concepts like the 50302 rule: 50% for essential expenses, 30% for wants, 20% for savings and debt payment, and discovered she was spending 89% of her income on necessities that actually included many disguised superfluities. The method Lisa applied was simple but powerful. She automated her finances. She set up automatic debit for all fixed bills, automatic transfer of $50 to savings on payday, and created a virtual envelope system to control variable expenses. In 6 months, she had $1,200 in emergency reserves and had paid off $2,800 in credit card debt. Today, 3 years later, Lisa has a reserve equivalent to 8 months of expenses, invested $15,000 in a retirement fund, and opened an educational savings account for her daughter. She credits her transformation to a simple principle she learned. Financial education isn't about having a lot of money. It's about making conscious decisions with the money you have. Marcus Johnson was working his 3rd job of the day, driving for Uber at 11 p.m. through the streets of Atlanta, Georgia, when he received a call that changed his perspective. His sister was asking how he managed to maintain 3 jobs and still was progressing financially, while she, with a stable job, was living in the red. Marcus's answer revealed a powerful truth. It's not how much you earn, but how many income sources you have. 6 months earlier, Marcus was unemployed after being laid off from a factory where he had worked for 8 years. At 34, with 2 small daughters and a wife studying nursing, he needed a quick solution. That's when he discovered that 44% of Americans have some type of extra income, according to Bankrate research. and that those with multiple income sources are 67% less likely to face severe financial difficulties. Marcus's strategy was methodical. He identified 3 skills he could monetize immediately. First, his experience in industrial maintenance helped him get handyman jobs on weekends, generating $400 to $600 extra monthly. Second, he began driving for transportation apps in his spare time, adding $800 to $1,200 to the family income. Third, he used his gardening knowledge to offer landscaping services, creating an additional source of $300 to $500 monthly. The turning point came when Marcus applied the smart investment rule he had learned from a financial podcast. Invest in yourself first. With extra income stabilized at $1,700 monthly, he allocated $200 to an online specialized welding course, a skill in high demand in Atlanta's industrial region. The investment paid for itself in 3 months when he got a job with a salary 40% higher than his previous one. The most valuable lesson came when Marcus realized that his multiple income sources functioned as a safety net. When demand for Uber decreased during the pandemic, he compensated by increasing landscaping services. When handyman work became scarce in winter, he focused more on his fixed job and online projects. Today, with a combined income of $6,200 monthly, Marcus teaches that true financial security doesn't come from a high salary, but from the ability to generate income in multiple ways. Thomas Mitchell was celebrating his 50th birthday in Portland, Oregon, when he received a call that made him completely rethink his relationship with money. His best friend from college, David, had lost everything in a personal bankruptcy after 25 years of apparent financial success. The question Thomas asked himself that night changed his life. If this happened to me tomorrow, would I be prepared? The answer scared him. Despite earning $78,000 annually as a sales manager and having a house valued at $320,000, Thomas realized that his financial security was an illusion. His real net worth, discounting mortgage and debts. The transformation began when Thomas implemented what experts call financial security architecture. First, he established an emergency reserve equivalent to 8 months of expenses, totaling $32,000. Second, he diversified his investments following the 100-age rule. At 50, he maintained 50% in stocks and 50% in conservative investments. Third, he created multiple layers of protection: $500,000 life insurance, disability insurance covering 70% of income, and a robust retirement plan. The differential in Thomas's strategy was scenario planning. He calculated exactly how much he would need in different situations: temporary unemployment, prolonged illness, economic recession, and even the possibility of caring for elderly parents. For each scenario, he created a specific action plan, including alternative income sources and structured spending cuts. The system's validation came 2 years later when Thomas was laid off during a company restructuring. Instead of panic, he experienced a strange sense of calm. His multiple layers of protection worked perfectly. The emergency reserve covered basic expenses, unemployment insurance supplemented income, and he had time to find an even better position with a 15% higher salary. Today, at 54, Thomas has a net worth of $340,000 and teaches workshops on financial security. His philosophy is simple. Building sustainable wealth isn't about making a lot of money quickly. It's about creating a system that works even when everything goes wrong. True financial freedom is sleeping peacefully knowing that you and your family are protected, regardless of what the future brings. Sarah Williams was organizing her family's financial documents on a Sunday morning in Dallas, Texas, when she found a life insurance policy that her late husband had contracted 10 years earlier. The document, apparently simple, represented the difference between her family facing financial difficulties or maintaining stability after the unexpected loss of the main provider. That moment made her realize the transformative power of succession planning, even for middle-class families. Sarah's husband, James, had died in a car accident at 42, leaving 2 teenage daughters and debts that included a $180,000 mortgage. James's strategy had been simple but effective. He contracted life insurance worth $400,000, created a will designating Sarah as executor of his assets, and established an educational trust for his daughters. Additionally, he had made annual donations of $5,000 to a savings account in each daughter's name, taking advantage of the tax exemption allowed by American law. The total cost of this planning was only $180 monthly. The practical impact was immense. The life insurance paid off all the family's debts and still left $175,000 for investments and future expenses. The educational trust guaranteed that each daughter would have $40,000 available for college, protected from creditors and possible impulsive decisions by the teenagers. The house was free of mortgage, drastically reducing the family's monthly expenses. Sarah discovered that succession planning was not a privilege of the rich, but a necessity for any family that wanted to protect their future. She expanded the strategy by creating her own will, establishing a family emergency fund, and contracting disability insurance. She also implemented a financial education system for her daughters, teaching them about investments, savings, and the importance of protecting patrimony. 5 years later, Sarah became a financial consultant specializing in succession planning for middle-class families. Her daughters are in college without student debt. The family has a reserve of $85,000. And Sarah built a new career helping other people protect their loved ones. Her message is clear. Succession planning isn't about how much you have, but about ensuring that the little you possess reaches the right people at the right time. It's the last act of love you can give to your family.